Alright guys, Scrappy Kicked today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The gentleman's agreement drama continues with Scrappy getting involved big time it seems in the GA chat over the last couple of weeks. They've now kicked him out of the group chat. Somebody stepped in and said, hey, Los Angeles Thieves have command over this chat given the way that things are currently going. Scrappy has been kicked, other drama unfolding elsewhere as well. Pred not a happy man with the state of the Jackal that he has returned to after his hiatus. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thought this is pretty cool here from Clay. He's obviously cleaning out the house there in Dallas. This was an interesting update yesterday. So it was confirmed in Ranked that the removal of the Cypher, the KSV, and the PPSH will be happening, right? So the Cypher is that new AR. Arguably that gun is too strong. You know, maybe fair enough. The thing that annoys me a little bit is the KSV and especially the PPSH really, just because I don't see the necessity to restrict these guns. The pros are not using them because they're too strong. The pros aren't using these guns because they're happy with the meta as it currently is. They want to make some tweaks to it, but the SMGs, they're like the Jackal, and, you know, well, it's not really that they like the meta, it's more so that they're never willing to try anything else. That's really what it is. But that is just what it is in COD. And the pros, they have their guns they like, they tend to use those guns, and they won't tend to use anything else. So these new weapons, the KSV, the PPSH, the Cypher, have now all been banned in Ranked, but, you know, they're not too good, right? Like, the Jackal is still fine, and I understand that Treyarch want the casual players, at least casual competitive players, right, playing ranked play and stuff, to experience the game in the same way that the pros would, and the pros do, and I get that, totally fair enough. But equally, is that really the way that it should be? Is if it's possible that somebody can use like what Octane would call an off-meta pick, then why not, right? Because as Octane says, like, these guns aren't overpowered. These are just kind of fun off-meta options, right? Weapons that you can use and potentially can be viable in certain situations if you find them fun to use. You know, back in the day, you could use whatever gun you wanted. Like, this is what was great about, let's say, BO2, for example. Sure, the MSMC was the dominant SMG. The PDW was used widely early on, but then it was clearly less competitive than the MSMC was. But the Scorpion, the MP7, all of these guns were still viable in that game, and some people liked them and some people used them. In these games, it seems nowadays, you know, even, you know, we're restricting just any old player to using only specific guns. And easyMac says that if there was like a competitive liaison role, like somebody who was actually tasked with dealing with these issues between the pros, the CDL, and the developers, it would fix loads of these problems, and that role just doesn't exist. But Austin says, look, this is possible if the idea was brought to Daniel's say and some actual candidates were presented. It's doable to make it happen, he says. Will it ever happen? I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, this is competitive Call of Duty. It's never what we might hope it to be. This was kind of wild as well. Pretty good find, I'm not going to lie, from the FaZe guys, that in the, in the CDL era, they have now secured 666 map wins versus the rest of the CDL. Pretty wild. And, well, this is what that looks like across all of the various teams. So they've played Ultra, well, they've played Ultra the most, I guess, so they've won the most maps against Ultra, which actually makes sense, really, because they played Ultra a lot at the cardboard days in recent times as well. FaZe versus Toronto was a matchup that will happen all the time. They've won 86 maps against them. They have a 58% win rate against Ultra. Against New York, or against, as it is, Cloud9, they've won 79. Against Thieves, it's 72-46. They have an excellent record against that organization historically. Same with Surge. I mean, Paris is pretty funny. Their record is 42-10. Gorillas, Ravens, Boston, well, even Boston, their record is pretty abysmal against them. So you see some of these numbers. The only team, of course, that's put up any sort of a fight against FaZe over the last few years is OpTic. And, you know, this considers other. So I think that this is just Paris and Las Vegas Legion. You guys can see the Falcons logo here, the Florida Mutineers logo here, the Dallas Empire logo here. So there's plenty of other teams they've played over time. OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, another example of a team that is now gone. But, and of course, most of these are current teams. This is including London and Carolina. But the only team that's put up any sort of a fight really is OpTic. They haven't played OpTic as much as they played Toronto, for example. You can tell by the total map counts. But OpTic are the only team that they have a map count against which is nearly in the negative, or certainly pretty much 50-50. So this is including Chicago Huntsmen, OpTic Chicago, OpTic Texas, and all those other iterations. But yeah, 55-54. So OpTic have won 54 maps off FaZe. FaZe have won 55 maps of OpTic over the last few years. Pretty wild stuff. They play again in a couple of days, of course. And you'd expect FaZe might extend this record. But yeah, not impossible that OpTic could move into an advantage situation in that in due course. And of course, FaZe are going to be walking out in front of the crowd at Dallas. And I'm sure there's going to be, lots of excitement if they play OpTic again there. Excitement and FU Drazah chance and all that type of stuff. Now, speaking of some of the drama in the COD scene, Drazah's been getting involved, as we know, on the gentleman's agreement side, saying that these SMGs don't know what they're talking about. They keep crying. We're taking their attachments off and they keep crying about it. And maybe they're crying for good reason. That is a perspective for sure. And there's lots of discussion. Even Looney said yesterday, we looked at it in some detail, that, these pros are brain dead. They don't know what they're talking about. Things need to change ASAP. Now, Pred, it doesn't seem as especially happy with the new Jackal. This is what the new Jackal cast seems to look like. Apparently, they were voting yesterday around, the gain twist and stuff like that, and they took off the barrel on this, the muzzles on it and all that. The gun now looks different. Does it still kill kind of nice? Yeah, sure. Does it feel the same? No. Is Pred very happy about it? No. So, a bit frustrating, I imagine, for Pred. He has a, good SMG, goes back to Australia, comes back in, and all of a sudden the gun isn't the same as what it used to be. So, Pred's obviously, missing deliberately here, to some extent anyway. But, yeah, the gun is certainly not what it used to be. And you can understand, watching this from Pred, why some of these SMG players are saying, well, hang on a second, why don't I use the C9 or use some sort of other SMG? That's an interesting possibility as well. Look, the best subs are still going to be the best subs, but as Pred says, this is a horrendous class compared to what it used to be. So we'll share that for you guys in a second. The other clip that I wanted to share was this one from Scrappy. So he turned on the stream again last night, and he reveals that he's actually been kicked out of the group chat. So the pros have a group chat, and I think it's just on Twitter, which just feels like, maybe it's not on Twitter, I don't know where they host it, but ideally it would be some sort of, Discord server, or maybe even like a WhatsApp group at the bare minimum. But you'd think a Discord server would make a lot of sense, because in that kind of environment, you can properly track votes, you can have different channels, and, maybe there are only certain pros that get access to a certain channel, whatever. It's probably something that could be done. I don't think it's something that is done necessarily, but we know that the pros, they're always yapping in this gentleman's agreement chat, and obviously it's always funny to consider it as the gentleman, because I'm not really sure how many gentlemen there really are in our, COD professional scene, but certainly among the pros anyway. They'll, of course, be the first to admit that themselves anyway. But they're in the group chat together, they're yapping about things, they're obviously yapping all day about the SMG attachments and what needs to get banned, and as I've said before, the majority of representatives in this chat from the various teams tend to be AR players, so that's why there's this talk about big AR and all this. But it turns out Scrappy, maybe as part of big AR, has been kicked from the group.
Okay, generally speaking, I didn't even play the Lynz, obviously I don't know, but from watching, and obviously, I've played. I can tell the sub's a bit nice, obviously. But I think taking off the muzzle is ridiculous, though. Dude, this is what they want. This is what they want. This class right here. This class right here. This is horrendous. Look, bro. I can't. Dude, this doesn't even. Bro. There's no way we're using this, right? Bro, I can't even hit him.
Oh yeah, chat, by the way, I've been kicked from the GA chat. I've been kicked from the GA chat. I'm no longer in it, so hop off my nuts. Appreciate it. Why'd you get kicked? Basically, I just called everyone just brain dead, and then I got kicked for just having two people in the chat, because me and Dan were in the chat. They thought, or not they thought, but the person is not in the league or not in the league. It's not a pro. It's someone else. He said there's too much influence if there's 2 people in it. You know what I mean? So I just got...
So do you guys think this is fair? What exactly is going on behind the scenes right now in the GA chats? Because, yeah, Scrappy is saying, look, if you guys have got issues with GAs, don't come to me to talk about it because I've got nothing to do with that anymore. I'm not in the chat any longer. Now, of course, it doesn't stop Scrappy and all these other teams talking to Ghosty and saying, hey, Dan, you know, can you make this point? Can you make this point? Can you see what they want to do about it? And I feel like this distraction in many respects from the players around this whole GA the Jackal thing has, I'm still going to mention it, right? But like, let's not forget that HyDra did drop a stair glitch, like a pretty disgusting stair glitch against Miami at the major. Are there going to be repercussions for that? Because, you know, I think there probably needs to be, because otherwise, why isn't everyone just going to break the GAs, if you know what I'm saying? So that's just one thing to keep in mind there. And I'm sure they've been preoccupied with this Jackal stuff, so I do understand why it's taken its time. But still, Scrappy, after doing a lot about GAs over the last few days, I guess the decision was going to be made at Thieves. Look, you guys can only have one representative in the chat. Now, to be fair, why this wasn't enforced immediately, I don't understand. Like, you know, it's obvious. This is surely the thing, that each team has one rep. That's how it works. So ever since Scrappy was in the chat, I imagine Ghosty was there as well. You got Scrap and Ghosty both giving their thoughts. Clearly there's, you know, additional bias there. So whoever was the man who said, hey, Scrap, you got to go, we're going to kick you out type thing, my guess is it's Spinner Spence. He kind of runs stuff for the league ops, player relations, stuff like this. So my guess is that he's in the chat and he was like, look, probably we should change this. But it's interesting that this is how it's been now for some time and apparently no issues until the present day. So Scrubby, I don't imagine you'll be too mad about it, but it's just, again, there are and there will continue to be so many better ways to do this than the way that the pros currently, you know, actually generate their decisions. And do they generate good decisions? Not as far as I'm concerned. It's also funny just hearing his perspective on why he was kicked, because obviously it's mainly because he was in the chat and so was Ghosty, so they thought there was some bias in play. But also what he said was, all he was really doing in the chat was calling people that he didn't agree with brain dead. And maybe they are, fair enough. Maybe Scrap's brain dead on some topics as well. I'm sure that other pros would say a similar thing. So yeah, tweet your thoughts in the comments below. Definitely a funny storyline. And Thieves' first match this upcoming weekend, I believe, is, yeah, well, this is Friday the 14th of February, in a couple of days, is Ravens. So they played at the major and it was, I mean, a bloodbath. Let's be honest here right now. Vivid did have one eye for this map, for this series, to be fair. But map 1, map 4, they nearly got 100-point clubs across 2 different hardpoint maps. Like, it was disgustingly ugly. So, you know, whether Thieves will do that again, whether Ravens can get some revenge, I imagine Thieves will kick on. I think this is one thing with FaZe that I imagine even after winning, they'll really still be locked in. And I think Thieves will be ever more motivated as well. Ravens should be in a similar boat, but of course, you know, they did have a pretty good result in the major. And Thieves, on paper, is going to be a tough matchup for them. But maybe they can do a better job in the hardpoints with Vivid having both eyes back in function going into this upcoming weekend. But very much interested your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.